Jeff St Laurent, excited for the Tuesday call. I am recording today's call. I do post them in my Selling Coaching University. So my website, sellingcoaching.com. And then if you go to the university, you can see all of the Tuesday call recordings. And then also there's a lot of videos on there, roughly, let's say over 100. So there's a bunch of them. And we're building on that every week. That are great educational videos. And again, my mission to help coaches transition to full-time. And we all know that we're so passionate about it, but it's like, how do I do this full-time? How do I create a full-time income with it? And that's where I'm dedicated to helping you guys do that. And really relating back and focusing on the skill sets of selling and the marketing aspects, because those are I always believe, the number one things that has allowed me the continued success in my business since 2004, and also the most underdeveloped skills and most feared skill sets of selling, if you will, for entrepreneurs in general, but especially coaches. We don't want to be that pushy salesperson, et cetera. So that's where I focus. So you can check out the call recordings there. Also, if you go to my website, sellingcoaching.com, right at the top, you'll see right there, basically every page, no matter where you go, it's right in your face, a link to join my private Facebook group. Many of you on the call and listening to the recording are in my group, and that's a great place where we can engage with you. And also, today I'm going to be making a special announcement of something we're going to be doing in the group for the next few months to just, switch the engagement up a little bit, get more people to participate, and also ultimately so you can see what other people are doing to grow their business. And that's going to be along the lines of today's call topic. Last thing before we get rolling as well, I don't know if you guys have seen, but if you've been a part of what I've been doing, a couple weeks ago I launched my premier group mentor coaching program called the JSL Mentoring Mastermind. And that's a great opportunity where obviously I work with people with one-on-one mentoring, but sometimes people, they like to work in groups and they don't need that intense engagement, if you will, with just one-on-one right now. It's a great group program. We got the ability to have one-on-one mentoring hours each week. We do live virtual meetings, face-to-face with video. And then also we have group calls each week as well. So it's a great platform. If you haven't checked that out, you can go right into my private Facebook group. Or if you have more questions about that, you can always email me directly, jeff@sellingcoaching.com. With that being said, today's topic, and now that will lead us into our special announcement, is basically how to use seminars to create income. And this is a big point to talk about and I write create income with this because ultimately, we're passionate about what we do as coaches, but we've got to create income. And the way to create income, and I'm gonna go from the base level of wherever you are, but starting off as a coach, is you're gonna get paid from getting coaching clients, right? And there's so many people out there right now, and have been for a while, and they're pushing, it might be online, but they're pushing, building your list, but creating funnels. And creating these free offers and just putting people through all these funnels and these automated systems. And I'm not saying that's a bad way to grow your business. However, if you're coming out of the gate and you have no database and you have no recognition, no one knows who you are, to your audience, or especially if you haven't really even chosen an audience or identified it that well, doing that virtually is going to be really, really challenging for you. It's going to be really, really hard because no one knows who you are. And then also, the conversion rate, the statistics are really low. I would say they're just a lot lower than you'd want or expect them to be. And it's good if you can educate your expectations, but also the engagement for people that come into a virtual funnel of just autoresponders of emails that you've set up ahead of time, even Facebook ads. I run Facebook ads, and I get about 3 to 5 new people a day. But then on the back end statistics of the people that actually download my program, only 58% of them actually even open that initial email, which has the download in it. So let's just call it half of those people, right, actually get it. And then I don't know statistics from there, but I'd be willing to bet there's another only half of them that actually even download it, and then probably another half of them who actually even listen to it. And then there's only a small percentage of them who actually engage with me from there. So I'm not saying that's a bad way. I do it, and I get some good people that way. I educate my expectations on it. However, where I'm talking about now is a really solid way of building your business And I hate to say a lot quicker, but it's a lot more engaging, and the results happen much quicker in the sense that you're going to be in front of people when you're doing speaking engagements. And that's why I'd say in order to get clients, we got to be doing speaking engagements. And it doesn't have to be live face-to-face. It could be something like this. Like from day one in my business when I launched Selling Coaching, and that's back in August of last year. So not even a year into this niche. I've been doing it since 2004, but I had a calling to really transition and work with the coaches and transitioning to full time. But even when I started that off, I had a few hundred coaches that I had worked with intermittently through things that I had done through a coaching school. But even when I started off there, I started a call and it's like, 1, 2, 3, 5 people. And even now, we get about 15, 20 people on average, and some weeks, lower than that. But the reality is when you're doing live speaking engagements, over the years, the first 10 years of my business, that's all I did was live speaking engagements, face-to-face. I would travel for them. I'd do them locally, and that's by far the best way to build your database, but more importantly, to get clients from there. So in a nutshell, let me talk about seminars a little bit. And I did another call. You have to check in the university not too long ago about how to use seminars to get clients. And so it's a little bit of an offshoot of that one that I'm going to talk about here today. But one of the biggest things about this is, for us as a coach, when we set up an event, the hardest part about it is getting past all the blocks we have in our head, because we're just like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, and what do I talk about, and I have to prepare. One thing you want to know about setting up an event, and I know a few on the call, are my one-on-one mentoring clients. Like I know Stephen, we talked about this too, and one of the things that we've gone over in a lot more detail than I can on today's call, but is the number one thing you've got to do is invite. And really that's 99% of the work, is inviting to the event and getting people in the seats. So you have to remember, when you're doing a speaking engagement, live or virtual, even something like this, right? But it's getting people in the seats and inviting people there. That's where you want to put the majority of your time. So don't just put an ad out or create an event on Facebook, get some flyers and put them at some local, shops or places, or email them to your friends or your list of people and say, hey, I've got a workshop coming up, or I got an event coming up. Don't just do that and expect for people to show up, because you know what? They're not going to. And I can say that because I've done it before, and it's just like, the people that show up are the ones that you talk with, that you go back and forth with, either on the phone, any type of virtual messaging, email, texting, Facebook messaging, go back and forth with and invite, and they confirm and they say they're going to go. And then you reconfirm with them the day of, and they say, yes, I will be there. Those are the people who will most likely still show up. So that's one thing you want to know about speaking engagements. It's not all fun and games. In fact, if you can set up a speaking engagement, the preferred method, as opposed to doing it on your own, because that requires connections in a database of people, doesn't mean you can't do it, and you can still reach out to people. And it's a good opportunity to reach out to new people, new businesses when you have your own event, because you can talk about your event. Say, listen, I'm doing an event. I'm excited about it, and I'd love to invite you guys. It seems as if, based on what I know about your business or what I see with your business, it seems like this event or this topic would be relevant for you. Obviously, you can decide that, but I wanted to share it with you to see what interest level you guys would have. See if there'd be what interest there'd be in having some people come to this event. Seeing if you'd be willing to promote this and share it with your staff. You can use that language, right? That's an approach to getting into just a simple company, whether it's a call or walking into the place. Just showing your genuine enthusiasm and sharing how, based on what you know about their business, you think it might be a good fit. So those are different ways we can invite to an event. But a much better way, if it's possible, is to do an event where someone's going to host it for you, meaning a company's going to host it, or and it could be a dentist's office, it could be a real estate office, any type of company at a lunchtime. I've done so many lunchtime events, lunch and learns they call them, or probably heard a bunch of different names. But those events are fantastic, where you come in 15, 20, 30 minutes, maybe even longer, and people just, they bring their lunches in a conference room, and you show up and there's 5, 10, 15, 20 people there. I've done lunch and learns and 50 people would show up at some companies I went into, and it was like, wow, this is fantastic. And so, and you give some topics that are relevant for maybe that company. So, approach there, if I can give you some quick approaches, is, walk into different companies, ideally through a connection. Like if you know somebody that either works there, or if you know somebody that knows somebody in a company, and they made a mutual introduction, and basically the phrasing something along the lines of, hey, listen, I own a seminar and coaching company, and I do some different events at some local companies, like some lunch and learns. And so and so knows you, or I know we've connected at a networking event. I know we connected through blah blah blah. And I'd be curious to find out if that's something that you guys have done before for your staff, or is that something your company or your owner or your CEO might be interested in doing. It's posing that question, and seeing if they're open to that. And that's the way I like to pose things. This is selling, right? It's finding out and saying, hey, I don't know if this would interest you or not, but here's what I do. Here's what I've done before, or here's what I'd like to do. And I was curious if your company does something like that, or might be open to hearing a little bit more about that, especially if the approach is coming from a cold, I don't know this person type of thing, or this person knows me and they've just connected me with you. So those are some quick approaches on maybe getting some into those places. But especially if you don't have a strong niche right now, or maybe any niche, and you're not quite sure who your population is, that's where, that's when a place, networking meetings like a chamber of commerce or something like that, those are great places, because you're going to find bankers, realtors, you know what I mean? Local fitness club owners, things like that, and connecting with those people there. And every single one of those people are, go back to, like, I've worked with banks. I've gone into banks at lunchtime. I've gone into realtors at lunchtime, and I've gotten clients out of it. Like I remember speaking 15 minutes at a Coldwell Banker, and there was probably like 7 realtors at that time, and we're all stuffed in this small room, and I sat there for like the whole meeting, and I was like the last 15 minutes, and I don't even remember what I talked about. I just talked about some personal development stuff or whatever, and I related to them as realtors, and I got a long-term client out of it. This woman hired me. I probably worked with her for 2.5+ years. We stopped, and then she came back a year and a half or so later and worked with me for another year. And also, as a result of that, the head of that group, that realtor group, she liked me so much she referred to like the corporate headquarter person, and I ended up doing a couple big events for them because they invited me in, and I ended up getting a handful of clients out of those as well. So, and that's just from a 15-minute event. Obviously, I can't, guarantee you results, but like this is how it works. So today I'm just trying to show you, how we can earn income through getting clients, and we're going to get clients from these events. But it's through finding out and who can I speak in front of. And like I'm showing you the 2 different styles, the 2 different avenues of basically, doing your own event. And again, doing your own event is a lot more work. Like I said, inviting, finding the space. And then obviously, like I said, the more ideal place is going into it from, who do I know? Who can they connect me with? Do they have a space where I could come in for their employees, et cetera, and, going over some of those approaches. The biggest thing about events is when you're there, you really get an opportunity for people to understand who you are and what your message is. And the reason why events work so well in terms of, creating income, from getting coaching clients is the average person out there, I'll just say it like this for the sake of conversation, no one knows what a coach is, right? And like no one knows what a coach is except for the people that know what a coach is. Other people think like, oh, an athletic coach, or they don't really get what we do. They don't get, that we're great listeners and that we can ask, objective questions and be detached from, our own agenda. They just don't understand it till they experience it. And even when they experience it, then we're just basically attaching a label like, well, that's coaching. And they go, oh. And they don't really care what it's called. They just know, like when someone gets coached really well, that, wow, that was a great experience because they were heard for once. Someone listened to them and cared to like understand them. They felt understood because, we could repeat back to them, what they said. And they're like, wow, that's exactly what's going on, or that's exactly how I feel. And that's the biggest point about what we're doing is getting to the place where people can start to understand us and listen to, they can feel heard and understood. And when they feel heard and understood, that's when they start to open up to you a little bit more. They start to see your energy, your tone, your pacing, your values, what you believe in, what you stand for. And then when they're in that spot where, maybe they're like, oh, I'm stressed, or I need to move forward with this, or I need to do something about this. They start to see you, and they start to see a door open. They start to see an avenue of hope, of saying, well, wow, maybe this isn't as bad, or maybe this person could help me, right? And that's the value of doing that event, and that's the value, is it builds value for our coaching, especially when you're at events, no matter what they are. Like I've worked with several clients, who are using Meetup, Meetup.com. It's been a great platform for building an audience and then getting people face to face. So especially if you're doing something that's non-virtual, meaning live, like you're actually meeting with people, that's a great platform to use as a resource. Meetup.com. If you do, there is a subscription to the service. It's like $10 a month, but if you're using it, it's virtually dirt cheap for something like that. But it's a great opportunity for people to get together, and I just call it like a small group coaching / social networking type platform. So it's not a networking group, but it's like you can be the leader of this little meetup group, and it's an opportunity to get people together. And again, you want to know your niche. You want to have more specifically, what are you looking for, or who are you looking for, and what are you looking to help them with. And let's say you're not there yet, you haven't identified those people, then pick a topic like stress, or something with relationships, or just maybe adding more fun and adventure into your life, or something like that, where you're meeting up to discuss different topics, do some group coaching, feel heard, feel understood, come up with some solutions to move you forward. And it's a great format when you get in there, and typically you're going to work with small groups, getting in there from like 1 to 8 or 10 people at the most, and that you can build up to over time. And you meet at a local restaurant, you meet at a Starbucks, right? You meet at any type of a social place, like a restaurant or Starbucks type place that has a social element to it. So you're not having to pay for a space, but I mean, if you walk into a Starbucks, people hang out there all day. They do their work there. They have meetings there. Not huge amounts of people, but can you have 5 people and pull a couple tables together and meet there for 30 minutes or an hour? Absolutely. Get a latte, get a whatever, and have a small intimate setting where you kind of walk in there and you kind of talk to them a little bit and find out what they're going through, what their challenges are. It's group coaching, right? It's small group coaching, but now again, they're going to get a good feel for who you are, what you're coaching them, so you can help them move forward, create some plans. They can walk away from that meetup feeling like, wow, this is awesome. This is fantastic. And then from there, you get to know them a little bit and you engage with them. And that's when you find, a place where there's a need that they have, and they're wanting to do something about it. They're sick and tired and they're fed up with it, etc. That's when you can make an approach to a transition, and when you do that, this is the selling aspect that you hear me talk about, where you're making an approach for a reason, not just because, oh, hey, I just want to ask this person, if they ever considered working with a coach, but rather you're saying, hey, listen, I can see you're really stressed at work. I can see you're really sick and tired of doing this, and you're wanting to work towards X, Y, and Z. Is that true? And like, why now? Why is now the time for you to do this? And they talk about that, and then from there you could say, well, I can't help but notice that you're going through that. Would you consider working with someone like myself? Or I can't help but say, like, show my excitement because I work with people like you all the time, and help them move forward to X, Y, and Z. Is coaching something that you would consider looking into a little bit more with me? Or I'd love to share with you a little bit more about what that could be or how it could help you. Is that something you'd be interested in hearing more about? It's some type of an approach like that where we make that transition. And that's really the whole crux of doing events is, Even events like this, like I said, there's live events face to face, but phone events as well. It's an opportunity for me to share my information, give some good value out to people. I'm not having to push things in your face. If you notice at the beginning of the call, I just share like, hey, here's who I am. Here's my website. Here's ways to get a hold of me. Here are some cool things that I'm doing. Check it out. So it's all up to you. But then I can deliver some really good information. And for a lot of you, it could just be that right time. It just could be just enough where it's like, wow, you know what? This is just what I needed. And you can walk away feeling good about it. And maybe it's not today, maybe it's not tomorrow, maybe it's not even this year. But at some point when people follow you, things change in their world. And that's why it's so important to be staying in front of them. And when you do these live events, like I said, virtual or in person, and you're keeping inviting them, again, they might only attend one of them or never come, and all of a sudden they just randomly show up. Like some people called in today that had either never been on the call. I noticed some names on call waiting. I'm like, I have no clue who this person is, or I know they've never been on this call before, And you never know the impact that you're giving with those people as they begin to hear your message through their own ears and where they're at in their world. And then all of a sudden you can interact with them. Sometimes what I'll do is, depending on who's in the call, if I don't get a chance to talk with them with caller ID, even on a call like this, I'll message people, or if I don't know who they are, if their email shows up on the caller ID, I'll email them and I'll say, hey, listen, I noticed you were on my Tuesday call today. I'm not quite sure who you are. Like, I'll just be honest about it. I'm not quite sure who you are. I'm like, how did you hear about it? Or what was your motivation for calling in? And I just want to create a dialogue. I'm not trying to sell them anything, right? I'm just trying to who are you? And what was your motivation? And how do you know about me? And how did you hear about this? And then if they're engaging, it's like, well, where are you at in your world, in your business? What are you going for? And maybe I'll invite them into my Facebook group. I'll invite them, if they're not on my email list, I'm like, hey, would you be interested in getting on there? Like, I want to stay in touch with them. Hey, have you checked out my university? Or if they have some questions, I might refer them and say, hey, check out my university, or I'll send them a link to a call that I did or a video that I did, and it's relevant to maybe something that they're going through. And I'm trying to help them out. This is how the cycle starts. And I'm trying to give you some specific examples, not so that you're just, oh, here's what Jeff does, but I'm showing you what I do, because this is the stuff. This is how I get clients. This is how I create income in my business, is I create relationships through these live events. And it's not just doing the event, hanging up the phone, or doing the live event and then leaving. It's, if you notice, it's finding out about people, interacting with people. A call like this, I'm not interacting with people. I try to in the beginning of the call. I say, hey, jump out. Who's there? If there's time, I'll engage with people and I'll talk with them a little bit, right? But right now I'm just talking to, the mute button, right? I mean, I know you're there, but there's no interaction yet. We can have some questions and answers and comments in a few minutes when I'm done. But from there, it's like, based on maybe what some comments from either in the beginning of the call when I'm engaging with people, maybe at the end of the call with some questions or comments. I've gotten literally a few clients at the end of these calls because of the questions that they've asked. I've then followed up with an email or even a Facebook message and say, hey, after the call on Tuesday, you asked a question. Tell me a little bit more about that, or it sounds like you're having a tough time with that right now. Talk to me. Elaborate a little bit on this, And I've gotten clients out of that. They went back and forth. Next thing you know, they had a need. I made an approach. Would you consider mentoring with me? And they say, you know what? I would. Great, let's set up a complimentary call, and we went from there, right? So I'm showing you it's not just doing the event, it's the follow-up afterwards. This is the vital aspect about events, that if you don't do this step, the event's useless. It doesn't mean that people after the event won't come up to you or won't email you or contact you somehow and say, hey, Jeff, I love that event, or that was a great call, or that was a great seminar. I'd like to find out a little bit more about working with you. I'd love to find out a little bit more about, when you talk about your coaching, what that is, or, I might be interested in learning more about, your coaching. It does happen. For the sake of conversation, once again, let's just say it never happens. Meaning, so when it does, which it's rare, but it does happen, it's like, oh my God, it's I just relate it to this gorgeous girl that just you really find attractive walking up to you and saying, hey, would you like to go out sometime? Like, really? Does that ever happen? Well, not really, but it can, right? So, and girls just flip it around, right? Whatever your preference is. So you get my point. So it's got to be us going out and engaging with the people afterwards through the various examples that I've been giving here. So that's kind of like a lot of the information I want to deliver in terms of, how do we begin to use events to create income. And like I want to highlight the couple different styles of events, whether it's us creating our own or walking into a place that has people already, giving the event, but then also really where we get the traction in the follow-up afterwards. And as I've shown you, whether it's live or virtual like this on a call, it's the consistency of it. How often do I have my Tuesday calls? Every week, right? Every Tuesday. And they're there, and we do that consistently over time. So if you're doing a meetup group, do it once a month, do it once every other week. Do it every week if you've got the time and there's a space for it, because people will miss it and they'll register for it and then they'll come again. On the Tuesday calls, not all the same people call in every time. Well, there's a few, like Jamil, he's always here, right? But and there's a handful of others that are more consistent. But it's hit or miss for people depending on what's going on with their weeks and their schedules. But it's there, and it's the biggest part about it is another value to doing consistent events, live events, is the marketing aspect. Is just the fact that, for instance, with the Tuesday call, it's an opportunity for me to send an email out. Yesterday was a holiday here, but I could have sent it out yesterday. Usually I do on Mondays, right? I send a reminder email on a Tuesdays. On a Friday when the recording's ready, I can send another email. I can also post in my group on my Facebook page. Gives me opportunities and a reason to be connecting with people and staying in front of my audience. And obviously I can add more than just say, hey, I've got a call tomorrow, I've got a call in a few hours, or hey, here's a recording. I can add some flavor, I can add some elements of, hey, here's what's going on, or here's what I did, maybe I can give another few tips. I can share a little bit about myself to make it real and personal, so it's not just another email that they're getting. It's from somebody. It's not an autoresponder that's just automatically going out. Make it personal with coaching, because it is personal. People need to know us and trust us as a person and like our style and what we teach and what we do. That's when they begin to trust us and they want to hire us and work with us because they believe in us.